So, Joseph, let me start with you because you focus on infrastructure, utilities, and when we talk about China especially, we have to talk about electricity consumption as a manufacturing powerhouse. How's that been affected?
It's not going too well right now, Sherry.
As expected.
As expected. It's actually going pretty bad. So you've got a double whammy right now. Number one, if the GDP is growing at 7% in a developing country, you'd expect a 1-to-1 proportion for electricity consumption. And actually, electricity consumption is actually growing at 0 to 1%. So something is not right there. And we think it's heavy industry, which is really not pushing electricity consumption. And you also got this shift into more residential, more commercial consumption. But that's only 25% of the total. The driver of the bus for electricity at the end of the day is heavy industry, and this is not moving.
A clear hint that there's a slowdown in China. And so, Michelle, tell us, how is that affecting the operators themselves, the coal producers?
Yeah, of course, it's not painting a good picture here. As Joseph just said, the power consumption is coming down so much. And we can see that the coal price right now is dropping like 20% as compared to last year. So it's now coming to the lowest in 8 years, even worse than the financial crisis period. And of course, it affects their profits as well. So right now, around 80% of the coal producers are in loss. So it's definitely not looking good right now.
And Lou, we are talking about electricity consumption, Chinese slowdown. What about oil consumption and China's GDP growth?
Sure, Sherry. There is a strong relationship between Chinese oil consumption and GDP growth rate. The most important metric we want to look at is the ratio between Chinese oil consumption growth and Chinese real GDP growth. This ratio averaged 0.67 over the last 30 years. However, last year, the ratio dropped to only 0.5, much lower than long-term average. We think this happened because Chinese economy is shifting away from energy-intensive heavy industry and gradually focusing more on services and high-value-added manufacturing. This may continue in the future as long as Chinese remains in this new normal stage.
So this could be a shift in the Chinese economy as the structure goes of the Chinese economy. But what about the fact that they're also focusing more on clean energy, and that's affecting, of course, other industries?
For the electricity, on the electricity side of things, the good news is that China is still building as much nuclear, wind, solar as they possibly can. So that's the good news. The bad news is that in the short term, the whole of the electricity consumption is down. So the utilization rates for things like wind farms is very low. And so that is impacting the profitability of the wind operators. So short term is going to be quite a bit of pain, but still a lot of capacity in terms of opportunity.
At least for us, we could see some cleaner air here in Hong Kong. And Michelle, coal producers, given that the whole slowdown is not having a great impact on them, what's their strategy in coping with the problems now?
Actually, there are two here. First, we can see that the consolidation is happening. So definitely the large players like Shenhua, China Coal, they will take the lead here, especially given the government support. And second, they're planning to expand their export as well. I think that's a good strategy for them because right now China is oversupply and we expect more demand coming from Japan or Korea or even Taiwan, to sort this overcapacity.